Welcome to Speedway Report, Monday, July 27th, 2020. Gosh, this is just like a test at the racetrack, like I posted about 45 minutes ago. We're trying some new equipment, and we have been for weeks. This is much like racing. Do some laps, pull it into the pit area, let the crew work on it, take it out for another little test, see how we're doing. I want to stay with you guys a few minutes on the different screens we have here in the studio. Paul McKeever joined us. Hey, Paul, how are you? Good to see you tonight. It's good to see everybody tuning in. Want to make sure, can you hear me okay, buddy? Give me a nod. I want to see you nodded. I want to see everybody nodding and liking and checking out our show tonight. Appreciate it as sometimes you got to break out that new car. It may or may not be running how you want it to, but you want to do it for the betterment of that. We are live from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm your host, Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. Good to be back on the air. Paul's communicating with me. Good. You're my test. You're the pit crew right now, buddy. Hey, Thomas. Good to see you joining us tonight. You guys are my pit crew now. Telling me how it feels. Maybe you're the drivers. You're telling me how it feels and how it should be at that. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight, as all of you are every Monday live, or if you're listening to the podcast later on where the download is. Wherever you are, thanks for tuning in to Speedway Report. Going to the Victory Lane Lap for this weekend, Monday, July 27th. Guess what? I didn't do one. It's a staple of this show to rattle off who won what over the weekend, but I've been wrestling so hard trying to rebuild the car here. I just kind of ran out of time. First thing that struck me on this, because I'll go right into commentary, was the world of NASCAR. I usually start with the National Touring Series, which raced at Kansas last weekend. I wasn't in front of the TV at all over the weekend. I was in Marion, Illinois at the Southern Illinois Raceway, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. But I was flying from here in Charlotte to Marion, Illinois for the Highbanks Hustle, which happened on the dirt track out there, and I was with a colleague, and we're talking, and we say, did you know there was a cup race tonight? No, there's a cup race tonight in Kansas. They ran the weekend a little bit backwards, I guess. Cup on Thursday, Xfinity on Friday, and trucks on Saturday, I think. ARCA was in there somewhere as well. I don't know. Well, we totally lost track of it as we were, at the dirt track all weekend. But then I knew I got press releases from NASCAR. I was behind on the schedule. So I didn't even keep up with it at all, to be honest with you, with what happened on the mile and a half at Kansas. And honestly, I'm still, with all that happened with with all that happened with the sport this past spring, all the controversy off the track, it certainly turned me off to it a little bit more. As Steve Phelps promised us in the new situation at the garage at Talladega, the person responsible for this will be banned from NASCAR for life. Well, then I'm waiting for Steve Phelps' resignation from the sport because it was his fault. I know what a garage pull looks like, and it still aggravates me to this day. Several weeks later, I love stock car racing. I love NASCAR. There's a whole lot that I don't like about the sport and criticize of it, but the fact that I missed all of the weekend's racing because I was at a race, I'm okay with that, and it was pretty good. We're going to talk about the Southern Illinois Raceway in a little bit. To kick off here, I do want to address a couple of big losses to the sport as we began our Roots and Racers reunion, chronicling the history of auto racing, different forms. And stock car racing lost two big ones in the last few days. Maurice Petty passed away. Part of the famous NASCAR Petty family, was a big part of Lee, Richard, Dale Inman, Petty Enterprises in Level Cross, North Carolina. Maurice, he built so many of those engines for all the wins of Petty Enterprises, as well as some other wins. He built engines for other teams along the way. Estimated that he won probably 250 Cup Series races with his engine in various cars out there. Maurice Petty, you say the name Petty to me, that's just royalty in stock car racing and NASCAR racing. Anybody connected to the family. Hall of Famer, NASCAR Hall of Famer Maurice Petty passing away earlier this week. We also lost Bob Bear. Bob Bear was such an influential person in New England in stock car racing with the Oxford Plains Speedway, the Busch North Tour, as well as, well, known in later years and more recent fans for his work at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. When the Magic Mile opened, you may remember what it was beforehand, those of us that are old enough, and the old road course and third mile oval that existed on that property. Again, Busch North raced there as well. He took the property and he built the mile-long New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Was it called New Hampshire International Raceway, New Hampshire Raceway? I know when SMI bought it, we changed it to New Hampshire Motor Speedway to match the branding of all the tracks, but it was called something else to begin with, and I can't remember quite what it was. But Bob Bear didn't rely on tax holder money, grants, International Speedway Corporation, NASCAR, or anything. This was back in the days when he reached into his pocket, invested the money in the property, in the track, and built New Hampshire Motor Speedway out of his own pocket with the idea, with the hope that this would bring National Touring Series racing to New Hampshire and the New England area. He felt confident in the Busch North Series and the Modified Series as they raced there right from the get-go. This was their Daytona, so to speak, their Super Bowl. It was huge events, and they supported those tracks with those double headers. The trucks were finally able to come up there. They got the Busch Series up there, and it was 93 when we finally got the Cup Series up there. So I believe they raced from 1990 to 1993 on the rebuilt, through 92 before the Cup Series finally showed up in July of 93. I didn't research any of this. I'm pulling it off my memory banks here. Modifieds in Busch North, so a big part of the history of that track. Bob Bear, we lost just a few days ago over the weekend as well. That took some guts when you think about it. In today's day and age, this was before the boom, when all the track buildings started coming in the later 90s. He built this thing in the late 80s with construction on this, with the vision of, at the time, Grand National Winston Cup racing to New Hampshire. No guarantees from anybody about anything. He just built the track. He had the vision and confidence that he could get NASCAR to come out of Daytona Beach and Charlotte and show up in New England. Now, at that time, we could all see the wave. We could all see the rise. We could all see the popularity and the extension of NASCAR racing throughout the country. And if you built this, the likelihood of it happening was, to me, somewhat of a risk, but not that big of one. It seemed like NASCAR would naturally want to do it. Times have changed so much to 2020. I wouldn't touch one of these tracks with a 10-foot pole now. Build a new one? Are you kidding me? We can't support the ones we have. But in the late 80s, that was back in the days when you could see this rising. You could see it climbing so strong year after year, and we couldn't see the end of this thing. We certainly can now as we've crested and are flying down the other side in a downhill fashion. But at the time, there was nothing on paper, but it was a calculated gamble. And Bob Bear just reached into his pocket, built the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But just the Bear name had so much influence in stock car racing in New England area, which rippled through the entire sport with the butterfly effect, but made it stronger, made it bigger, made it more popular. Bob Bear, NASCAR Hall of Famer someday? Hey, why not? It takes more than just drivers to put this sport on, but a lot of folks. Well, we've got a lot of track builders, track operators, and behind-the-scenes personnel in NASCAR that made it happen, that are Hall of Fame worthy. Bob Bear, NASCAR Hall of Fame, write it down. Yes, he's worthy, and he should be on the nominating ballot in the coming years. Now, as we record this show July 27th, like I said at the top of the show. I spent the weekend in Illinois. It was a rainy and muddy Illinois. I was at the Southern Illinois Raceway, my first ever trip there. Jake Palmisano, the operator of it, very welcoming. I flew out here from Charlotte to St. Louis, drove down to Marion for the 600cc Highbanks Hustle. It which is a 3-day event. Saturday night's main event, 40 laps, paid $12,000 to win. Now, 600cc racing, you may or may not be familiar with it. It's a new, well, I don't know if it's a newer style of racing. I don't think it really is newer, but it's newer to me, as I discovered this in the past several years with just with the magazine CC Racer. And then I started working for the publication company within the past year and a half, and they just got more and more exposure to the stars and cars of what makes 600cc racing. Picture, if you will, a sprint car on a smaller scale, run with a motorcycle engine and a chain drive. Very, very fast cars on very, very tight bull ring tracks. This was a high-banked dirt track built like a bowl. Very little straightaway on this thing. I want to say size-wise, gosh, it was under a quarter mile. I want to say a sixth of a mile, an eighth of a mile, something like that. 118 entries for this weekend's Highbanks Hustle. Scheduled for practice on Thursday, a preliminary night Friday, and the main event on Saturday. Complete nights of racing Friday and Saturday. Run quite a bit different than what I'm used to in the stock car world, as they had a blind pill draw for 12 heat races. That's right, 12 heat races that paid passing points. So if you started up front in the heat, you didn't get too much passing points if you wound up winning it. If you could come from the back to the front, you got passing points and improved on that. Everybody from the heat races went into a pair of qualifiers. For every 2 heats, that formed the starting lineup for the qualifiers. And from the top finishers from the qualifiers made it to the main event. So with the point system, it almost behooved you to draw a low number and start in the back and race for points that way. Now, Friday night's preliminary feature was 30 laps of $1,000 to win, and Alex Bright took the checkered flag there. So we had 118 cars paired down to what I believe was 24 only for the feature race. And then on Saturday, they had a similar program, except they ran last chance qualifiers for the 40-lap A main, which paid $12,000 to win, won by Frank Flood. Now, how well did I do there? So. Out of the 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 2 of them got rained out on me. Thursday night, the planned practice session, it got rained out. Rain poured down in the afternoon and just made the surface and the grounds too wet to really work through. Typical summertime, I had afternoon thunderstorms all week. Friday, it did not rain at all, and they got in the show that I saw. Alex Bright was your winner. On Sunday, another afternoon monsoon came through as these 90 plus 100 degrees days lit up these passing thunderstorms. Again, soaked the track where they ran it in, and they just couldn't get it into a raceable condition. Now, this was my first time. I finally witnessed the helicopter brought in to try to drive the Speedway. Have you guys seen this on YouTube and all the video channels? I did last summer, where I never saw this before, where tracks were renting helicopters. Remember all the rain we had in 2019? They would come in, the helicopters would come in, fly only a few feet above the track surface, and slowly circle it as a fan blade to try to get rid of the moisture and the dirt. I witnessed this on Saturday at Southern Illinois Raceway. You should check out, I've got some photos on the show's Facebook page. You go to Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds if you're not watching it live on there now, but I did post some photos of this helicopter, just only a few feet off the track surface, doing very, very slow laps around the Speedway. We couldn't get the show in raceable time. It was postponed until last night, the 26th. I flew back to Charlotte that day. Did not change my travel plans. Lo and behold, on Saturday, another thunderstorm comes in, delays the action, but they were able to get the track in shape to run. Nice dirt track. Got it going a little bit later than a few hours behind schedule. Still late Sunday night, possibly early Monday morning. Frank Flood was your winner of the $12,000 40 lap feature. Quite an event, the Highbanks Hustle. I first were exposed to these cars the previous year in 2019 at Circus City Speedway, which is north of Indianapolis. They ran a big event traditionally the night before the Indy 500. I got to see that last year, and this year kind of set up a month of money as they've had a whole lot of, last year they had rain. This year with COVID-19, all these traditional dates for a lot of these races were postponed. And it's created like what the World of Outlaws used to have with the, remember the big one? The King's Royal, the Knoxville Nationals will all be within a month of each other, and they had their month of money. COVID-19 has caused somewhat of a similar thing of the month of money, just with rescheduling from the spring. We've almost got 3 or 4 weeks in a row for these cars to run for big, big dollars with $12,000 to win. They will be close to me in August at the Millbridge Speedway here in North Carolina. Looked at a couple of dates for the 600cc sprint cars, one with wing, one without wing. And I'm going to try to see both of those shows. But really cool style of racing. Gets me away from like typical stock car stuff. I like the dirt. I like late models. I like sprints, modifieds. So these are a far cry from the 410s and the 360 sprints, but with the motorcycle chain drive engines. However, they go. They put on some fantastic racing. Southern Illinois had multiple grooves up on the top, up on the bottom. There was a middle out 3-4 lanes. This was really good stuff. All heat races were full. The feature was the best of the best. This is a type of racing, some of the fastest growing in the United States. I urge you to check it out. I got to witness it a little bit more last year in Pennsylvania up at Linda Speedway, Shellhammer Speedway. There's a lot of tracks up there, but this is a very fast-growing style. I'm always into the Indy cars and sports car racing, NHRA, NASCAR, modifieds. You know what I like to cover here on the show. That's what we talk about a lot. And, well, this got me out of that groove. However, very, very positive thoughts on CC style racing. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but I intend to see a whole lot more. Thank you, Jake Palmisano, and everyone at Southern Illinois Raceway in Marion, Illinois, where I was over the weekend, for the hospitality you showed me for the Highbanks Hustle. Speaking of sprint car racing, should we just tip our hats or genuflect or kneel or bow in the presence of Kyle Larson? This guy is absolute magic. I haven't seen sprint car results like this, I don't know if ever. And I remember World of Outlaws in the heyday of Steve Kinzer and Sammy Swindell, but I don't know if anyone's put a streak together much like Larson does. If you are on Twitter, go to Adam Fenwick's page, and he's been keeping track of Larson's finishes, where they're just constant wins and seconds and wins and more wins, and he's just dominating sprint car racing like I've never seen anybody. And he is running an outlaw schedule. No, I don't mean World of Outlaws, but literally outlaw. He's run the All-Stars. He's run a 360. He'll run 410s, independent shows. He's run some World of Outlaw sanctioned shows. He's running a true outlaw schedule where he's just racing where he wants to race for the purse he wants to race for on the track he wants to race for. Granted, the high dollars and TV spotlight of NASCAR disappeared earlier this year, may or may not be back again in the future because of the racial slur that he uttered when he thought he was in private playing a video game. However, his sprint car racing has taken off, and the guy has got to be having the time of his life. Answering those questions, gosh, if Kyle Larson never left dirt racing to go NASCAR racing, where would he be on the sprint car ladder? He is showing these guys exactly where, right on top. Doesn't matter if you're a Pennsylvania posse in the Midwest, the World of Outlaws, he is almost unbeatable. He's got a streak going that's absolutely incredible. If there's a dirt race with a sprint car at it near you, go see it and see if Kyle Larson is entered. He is the show in auto racing right now. And I do want to talk a little bit about the show that comes up after us. As you used to listen to all of us on Monday nights on Racers Reunion Radio, Jerry Smith with Stars Radio, myself with Speedway Report, and John Bachman and Bill Pratt with Drag Racing Live have all ventured out, and we now broadcast here on Facebook Live. Coming up at the top of the hour, Bill and John will talk to Joe Morrison, NHRA top fuel racer. Had a great season or partial season lined up. COVID-19, man's dreams came true. COVID-19 really threw a monkey wrench into the schedule for NHRA and top fuel racing. Anyway, Bill and John are going to talk to Joe Morrison at the top of the hour. In about, what do we got, about 9 minutes from now, they're going to tune in. I urge you, Joe was an internet Facebook friend for a long time. He and I finally met in person at the PRI show at Indianapolis last December. He grabbed a handful of life and gusto and is fulfilling his dreams as he climbed the drag racing ladder and is now part of NHRA in the top fuel class nonetheless. So after this show, as I always tell you, go to the drag racing list page on Facebook. Listen to Bill and John talk to Joe Morrison. Racer of the week, I'll give it to Frank Flood. I paid attention to him. I watched him. I saw him beat a 118-car field for the Highbank Hustle at the Southern Illinois Raceway. That, come out of a heat at a blind pill draw, come out of the qualifying race, get into just to make the A-main is such an impressive accomplishment. And to go win the whole thing, good for him, man. Yeah. Frank Flood, car number 81, 600cc class. You, my friend, are the Speedway Report Racer of the Week. Hey, guys, in between our broadcasts, keep up on the world of auto racing with SpeedwayReport.com. All of our past shows are archived right there. Recently, we've got some more written work from Rhonda Beck as she touches on some really good topics in short track racing and the history of NASCAR. Head on over to SpeedwayReport.com. On social media, catch up with us on Facebook. The Racers Reunion Facebook page are right here, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. Our archives are also in racersreunion.com in the forum. Big thanks to everyone on the Facebook Live feed tonight, as well as giving me sound checks through our testing earlier tonight. This is something I'm going to keep working on. When you got to make equipment better, make it better for you guys, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. But thanks for your feedback and letting me know about the testing. I want to thank all of our military past and present for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, you take care of yourselves and come home soon. A big salute to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, and Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and follow me on Twitter at Speedway Pat. Like I just talked about, if you're on Facebook Live right now, head on over to the Drag Racing List page. Bill Pratt and John Bachman will have a nice chat with Joe Morrison. We'll be back live here on Monday, August the 3rd. Wow, the summer is going by because none of us have done much of anything so far. It's going by too quick. It'll be winter and we'll still be stuck inside. But anyway, we'll be back here on August 3rd next Monday with a wrap-up of the weekend in racing. I'll probably get back to a victory lane lap and give you some results and actually pay attention on a national scale, unless I find a good local track to go to. Then we'll talk about that. But I thank you all for watching. You take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And I'll see you all next week.